We're going to be okay. All right, we're live. All right, everybody. I know we're a couple minutes early, so if you're joining on whatever platform you're joining, welcome. Looks like on Perform Live, we've got Creative joining. What's up, man? Nice to see you. I'm sure we'll have a few more folks joining us there. And then, of course, we're on Instagram. Instagram folks, unfortunately, I can't see you if you're commenting right now, but you can always leave a comment and I will get back to you. So those of you who are joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, many of you know, but some of you don't. My name is Pega Kadkodian, and I am Coach Pega. And every Friday at 2:30 Pacific Standard Time, we go live with something called Friday Fireside Chats. And every week, and actually, I'm just going to make sure my Do Not Disturb is on so nothing gets crazy. There we go. Every week, I bring a new topic to the table, and Mom's going to come by. Check it out. Hold on. Here. Hold on. She's crouching. She's so cute. She doesn't want to be seen. So every week I bring a topic to the table, and the topic is generally something that is something that's relevant to what's going on in my life, or something that I'm working on with clients. And for those of you who don't know, I am a resilience coach, primarily for women, but also for men as well. And so the topic that we bring to the table is typically something that centers around the 7 pillars of resilience, which is my signature healing system called the Radical Resilience Healing and Transformation Process. And the topics we bring to the table are really meant to be for discussion and to help you cultivate greater resilience. So this week, the topic on the table is all about second chances. We are imperfect humans, and a lot of times I work with women and men who are going through big transitions, oftentimes divorce. And, the question becomes, when do you give somebody a second chance and when don't you? So when is it appropriate to give somebody a second chance and offer grace? And when is it time to put a hard line in the sand, so to speak, and really set a clear and concrete boundary? So it is really up for discussion. So for those of you who are watching on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, I can see your comments in real time. So you can for sure weigh in on what you think about that. For those of you who are on Perform Live, you can come on stage and we can have a discussion about it, or you're welcome to leave a comment. It looks like we've got 3 or 4 people, 4 or 5 people. I can't really tell. I think 4 people on Perform Live, 5 now. On Perform Live, and we've got several on the other platforms as well. So the topic that is on the table today is second chances. When is it appropriate to give them? And of course, it's such an individual answer. And when is it best to put a hard line in the sand and say, that's a no-go, that's a threshold boundary, if you will, and there's no coming back from that. It is going to be totally individual, whatever your answers are. Of course, I have some thoughts on the matter. Usually the topic that I bring to the table, if you weren't here in the beginning, relates to something that I am dealing with personally in my life, or something that I've been supporting a client with. And this one is about me. This one has to do with my life. So I was recently in a situation of a romantic nature that had to do with whether or not I was going to give somebody a second chance. And it was really interesting because I had to drop in with myself. Of course, all of my friends and family had opinions to weigh in. They all weighed in and they all had their opinions. But I realized it was really something that was individual, and that I needed to sit with myself and the God of my understanding. I have no bones about using God as a reference, but some people don't like that word, so you can replace that word with whatever you want. I call it God. You can call it the God of your understanding, source energy, the universe, the collective, whatever works for you. And so I had to sit with that and really kind of go into a meditative state and ask myself, is it appropriate for me to give this person another chance given the circumstances and the context? Or is this a situation that's like a no-go and I have to really put a hard line in the sand and say, there's no coming back from this? And ultimately, at the end of the day, my decision was to grant a second chance because I was able to recognize that the person, albeit very misguided and not operating at his absolute best, was coming from a place of operating from his baggage. And what allowed for me to grant him grace and ultimately be in a space of forgiveness was that I recognized that he was willing to own up and take responsibility for his part in the breakdown, and recognize that there was some, baggage there to work through. And not only that, there was a commitment to do that inner work and to do the inner work. And so that's really what allowed me to come into a space of grace. Now, of course, second chances are not third, fourth, fifth, and endless chances. So there is sort of a threshold there where it's like if the words, "Hey, Mom, you're on camera. What's up? You gonna say hi?" No. She's not gonna say hi.
Hi, everybody.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
There you go. She said hi. Anyway, so there isn't necessarily a, endless amount of chances there for people. But, it's for you to determine where is the threshold for yourself. For me, this was a scenario where someone was willing to recognize their part in it, own up to it, commit to doing something about it. And then ultimately, it was much more about action and like demonstrating through behavior than it was about words. And so in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, which is one of the modalities that I use, we talk about how the only way to really calibrate change is through behavior, right? You can only calibrate whether or not progress is being made through someone's actions. And although people are not their behaviors, which is another principle inside of the presuppositions, is what they're called, of NLP, people are not their behaviors, but all you have to really know if someone's behavior is changing, rather someone is changing, is their behavior. So I will say for me, that's what it took, right? So just a commitment to own up to it, recognize it, take responsibility for it, and then really commit to seeing a difference or a change. So I'd love to hear from you all what your thoughts are on this, and where your thresholds lie, if at all, right? So if anyone wants to come on stage through Perform Live and have a conversation, would love to see you come up on stage. Or if anybody wants to leave a comment, we can start to have a little dialogue about this. I know we've been posting it on the socials, like, hey, let us know what does it take for you, or where do you find it appropriate to give second chances, and when don't you? So I'll just give it a couple minutes, see if anyone wants to weigh in or come on stage. But I will also say, with regard to second chances, that everyone's going to have an opinion, right? So everyone's going to weigh in because they're well-intentioned and they care about you. And at the end of the day, it's for you to decide what is appropriate for you. So even in a scenario where in a marriage, or a committed relationship, someone, there's a huge breach of trust or a betrayal, it's really up to you. It's up to the individual to decide what's the threshold boundary. Is the betrayal a symptom of something? Is it sort of a repetitive pattern, or is it just a one-time situation? Because you can't make gross generalizations and just say, oh, like if somebody does this, then like carte blanche, that means that they're going to do it again or what have you. So wellness is weighing in. So we all know it's not easy. It's emotions and logic. Absolutely. Right. So 100%. Our logic definitely weighs in, and that's sort of our cerebral mind, and that prefrontal neocortex wants to come in and kind of give the logical thing about it. And then there's our limbic brain that also kicks in and makes us operate from our emotional space. And wellness is saying, I like your objective approach. Is it one time or is it repetitive? Yeah, I think, for me, those are sort of the markers that I look at, is like, well, is this a repeated pattern? Is this something that this individual continues to do over and over again? Where you're looking at, okay, this is just a something that runs a little deeper than just kind of looking at a one-time occurrence. Is the person operating and from their baggage, like were they triggered? Where that was their trauma triggered, and that's why they behaved the way that they did. So it does take some kind of willingness to pause and reflect and ask yourself, like, what would make somebody behave this way or do this thing, always approaching from a mindset of curiosity. And, the old adage, seek to understand before you're understood. So in as much as in the heat of the moment, it can be so hard and it can feel so seemingly impossible to like calm yourself down and be rational, because that limbic brain is kicking in. It does really take like a moment of stillness and your willingness to like drop in and calm yourself so that you can get really honest with yourself about what is truly right for you and what's in your highest and best good. So wellness is saying, but let's say it's one time. How do you truly move on, assuming the other person acknowledges? Well, so that is a really great question. And what I will say is it takes time. So, if it's a one-time situation and the other person is acknowledging it and willing to do the work, it's not enough to just immediately jump right back to where you were. I think that's really hard to do. I think the easiest thing to do is to take it slow, to not assume that you're going to go right back to being how things were. As a matter of fact, that would be ill-advised to try and jump right back to the way things were, but rather to kind of create some agreements, right? So that would be my coaching, would be to say, like, create some operating agreements around whatever the breach of trust was, and this is really something, you all, that is so cross-contextual. This could be something that you apply in a professional setting where if there's a breach of trust, you can talk about like, well, what are the operating agreements that we need to put into place to reestablish safety and trust? And one thing that I think is really important is reestablishing psychological safety when there's been a situation like this. And a dear friend of mine and colleague yesterday was talking about how he was talking about how do you establish psychological safety. And the first step really that he offered was kindness, because kindness then leads to deeper connection, and deeper connection ultimately allows for trust to be reestablished and for psychological safety to reestablish. So wellness says, how much time is enough time to keep trying? I would say that is really going to be individual to you and kind of what your threshold is, right? So let's say somebody breaches your trust. Hypothetically, they own up to it. They say they're sorry. They're willing to do the inner work to make sure it doesn't happen again. You put some operating agreements into place, like, okay, so like next time, to make certain that nothing like this happens again, here's what we're agreeing to. And then you just do have to give it some time to see, how does it go? Like, will the person do it? Will they not do it? If they do it again, that kind of gives you your answer. And honestly, the truth is that there just are no guarantees in life, right? In as much as we want to have like a formula that says, give it 6 months and then you should be golden, I can't say that for sure, because you might give it, 6 months and everything could be going great and it might happen again. And the truth is, when it comes to matters of the heart, especially, and really even in a professional setting, only time will tell. And then it's really up to you to determine, what are your thresholds? What are your boundaries, like your hard line boundaries about things? And then once you know what those are, to really stand in your truth and honor those, right? Just honor those. And if what you say to yourself is, okay, I'm going to give this person literally one more chance, and if they repeat this same pattern, I'm out, then like live up to that, right? So follow through with your commitment to yourself, like honor yourself in that way. And if they show you like 6 months into it, like 6 months have gone by and things are going really well, then great. And maybe you can begin to kind of like let the guard down a little bit. It's so individual. The point here is that it takes vulnerability to be willing to give somebody another chance. It makes you vulnerable, and that's not easy. Vulnerability is courageous. Brene Brown talks about how vulnerability is brave. And so to give somebody a second chance really does require a willingness to be vulnerable, to put yourself at risk, and to ask yourself, is it worth it? Like if you're in love with this person or there's potential for something like that, to live a wholehearted existence, again, to quote Brene Brown, who I love, to live a wholehearted existence does require a little risk. It does require vulnerability and putting yourself on the line and putting your heart out there and being willing to say, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth the risk. I can totally tell you, and those of you who know me know that I am like relentless when it comes to love in particular. Like, I will never give up on love. And so it doesn't matter how many times I've had a breakup or a heartbreak. I just keep getting back on that horse because I believe in love, and I am relentless about um, that belief, because I believe that people are inherently good. I believe that people are inherently capable of learning and growing and evolving. And I'm willing to offer people grace because I have been given so much grace by the people in my life, right? Because I'm certainly not perfect. I'm incredibly human and very flawed. And so, because I've been on the receiving end of so much grace, I really believe in giving people grace. So, anyway, that's my insights. I hope that's been really helpful. Thank you for all of you who joined us Forum Live. There was a really lively conversation there. I really appreciate you. Wellness says, OMG, so cool, relentless in love. Yeah, that's a quotable. You can go ahead and quote that, like, I'm relentless about love. And then for those of you who've joined us on the other platforms, I will be sure to check out your comments, even if I didn't see them live and in the moment. Jane, you're so welcome. Kumg, you're so welcome. Svetlana, you're so welcome. Thank you all for being here. Again, we go live every Wednesday with yoga, all levels vinyasa class on Perform Live. For the rest of the platforms, you can join us on Perform Live or Moxie, or Eventbrite, right? So there's a lot of different ways you can join in on that yoga class. And then every Friday, we do this free fireside chat. It's an opportunity for us to have some really lovely, lively discussion. There's a different topic every week. And, there's always opportunity to get some flash coaching, like in real time. Just so you all know, on Perform Live, if you are interested, you can totally purchase and download a set of like guided meditations that I have there for you. It's a steal. I think it's something like $4.99 or $6.99 or something like that. Those are wonderful ways to kind of recalibrate your nervous system. And also I do some energy hygiene if you're going through emotional stuff, but also just for daily maintenance too. So I'm going to go ahead and say farewell. So much love, light, and aloha to my folks on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. We'll see you back here real soon.